welcome all to the Speakeasy podcast. I am Daryl.
I'm Phil.
And today's episode is quite interesting. It's a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of maybes and perhapses. And I guess the biggest one we could talk about right now is the idea of maybe the Big Bang Theory being a time loop, and right now we're just doing the same shit over and over again. We're part of a strand of the cycle.
Right. A self-completing prophecy almost.
So what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, so I really I find solace in that idea because it kind of means that everyone's lives are infinite and everything has meaning, and yet will happen, has happened, is happening. So the idea, of course, being that at the end of the universe, this concept of the big crunch would be what a lot of people call it, where everything we know is going to crumple back.
Into nothing.
As it infinitely expands, it has to come back.
Yeah.
According to that theory. And so everything's going to come back. And because matter doesn't just disappear, it transforms.
Yeah, exactly.
That crunch creates the Big Bang, and then everything happens all over again forever.
But what do you think about the idea? So if say that happens, right?
Right.
There's obviously the two theories I'm imagining it. I theorize is one, it's if the universe does it by itself, then it's kind of like an infinite loop. You can't really change it unless we find some sort of, or we create some sort of technology that manages to sort of break the loop by, like, I don't know, stopping the vibration, the massive infinite shockwave that comes back our way.
We'd need a lot of advances in quantum mechanics.
Yeah. Or manage to, like, sort of control an aspect of time or space that manages to sort of, like, create a warp dimension where we're not affected by the
so a little
regression.
Timeout zone, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like a timeout zone. Like, while this big ass shockwave of surprise motherfucker, we're back, comes back, we're just sort of like in this little bubble, kind of like a tiny hut reference in the D&D, if anyone knows what that means.
That's a good one. That's a good catch.
So or So, and the second one I think would be sort of if humans were the ones that created it, or a being that sort of created it because it's sort of the conditions of the worlds were a little too chaotic, and in order to reestablish balance, they sort of pressed the reset button and just fucking washed everything and said, you know what, let's reboot the system real quick because
it's not working well. Turn it off and turn it back on.
Someone pulled the plug midway while it was saving the files.
The creator called for the technicians who came over and told them, did you try shutting it off?
Turn it back on, restart it. But yeah, what do you think?
The thing that's interesting about it too is that if it keeps repeating, there are some things that are clearly up to chance, just random occurrence. Yeah. So it's probably the same things in the sense that point A is the Big Bang and point B is the Big Crunch. Yeah. But everything in between could still vary. So the idea would still be that some of us wouldn't exist, some of us would, but it would happen infinitely. So we would probably exist a few times. So not everything would happen the same way, I would presume.
Yeah, but that could be like the idea of reincarnation. Just in a very long span of time, you know. It's not like not a generational thing. It's very much a eons thing.
Yeah, it's like reincarnating mixed with the multiverse theory.
Sure.
In a sense. Instead of a multiverse, the multiverse exists, but it's all one universe.
Yeah.
It keeps changing into another one, I guess.
Yeah. But what would be interesting though is the idea of like maybe like, because you know, if that were true, if that was a concept that would be sort of, I don't know how it would be proven, but say it is proven and say it is a fact.
Right.
That would mean that there would be a limited amount of creatures or beings that would be born between point A being Big Bang and then point B being Big Crunch. That means in between that, the second cycle would be sort of just the same set of characters.
Right. It would be a reboot.
Yeah, it'd be like a Snyder cut. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. And that would be kind of sort of weird because would you imagine that having to restart the same thing?
Well, it's like Groundhog Day, but no one knows.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it changes nothing for the people living it. But it's just the knowledge that it kind of throws away your fear of death because you'll come back probably.
Hopefully. Yeah, a long time. Yeah.
But yeah, there have to be I think there has to be permutations of sorts. You're going to go that way and you're going to meet someone, which eventually you're going to marry and then have kids with, or you go on the other side and you don't meet that person. So then someone doesn't exist in one version versus the other if it's due to random occurrence. So,
But what would be interesting is if, say, like as an all-powerful being, beings that were sort of like, imagine this is like an experiment, like a test experiment where it's like sort of like for us, obviously, like from point A to point B would be a sort of billions and billions, maybe trillions of years. Right. But for them would be like a couple of minutes, couple of hours, and like seeing the trial run of just like seeing, look, I guarantee you that these people right here, these beings, will do exactly the same thing given a different approach. And they're like, I just bet. And then, reset. And then you start seeing it. It's like, see, told you, the same goddamn thing. I don't know why. They just do the same dumbass shit.
It's going to be one very long TV show, basically.
Yeah.
The thing is, as well, if there were such beings that would be able to survive the Big Crunch, basically like the idea of Galactus.
Yeah.
That's like his origin is he's part of the previous version of the universe. He somehow survived the whole cycle.
Yeah.
And he made it to the next one, but with all the energy, all the cosmic energy from the previous one is into him. So now he's some sort of, cosmic
entity. Yeah.
Right. But imagine someone who somehow makes it like Galactus makes it.
Sure.
And is from the previous iteration and just gets to see everything happen.
Yeah.
There's probably another version of them. Who knows?
Yeah.
And they have to basically maneuver across this world that is kind of familiar, but they're also
different
alien too, because they got to see everything they knew go away. That would make for a very interesting story.
That would definitely be a very good sci-fi film. That that will be our next Star Wars franchise. That's great.
Yes, that will be the next big thing.
The warp dimension.
Right.
The crunch.
The crunch.
Star Wars.
Captain
Crunch. But no, honestly, like, if, like, the thing is, if sort of, there's other theories where sort of imagine us, like, as humans, we're the prime beings. That's one of the ideas I was thinking myself in my head as well. Seeing as we haven't seen any alien sightings yet.
Right.
So we know of. Obviously, government issues could, be a whole different story. It'd be like, look, we actually know they were here. It's just that we don't give it to the audience, to the civilians. But imagine we are the prime beings, and then we are sort of the ones that end up creating this big crunch. We ultimately colonize every single galaxy, every single paradimension, and then we sort of like, literally like bacteria, like massacring the entire fucking but like really like infectious bacteria, just like sort of, like grow exponentially and sort of start colonizing everything, and then we ultimately reset the universe back into to one. That would be so bad. That'd be so sad because that would mean that the person that would be able to survive it would probably be like one of us, a prime, and then sort of seeing their or our mistakes. Like,
yeah, they would probably hate humans.
It's literally like a very sad, depressing thing to see. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, definitely. It wouldn't endear them so much to everyone that exists.
No wonder
in fact, someone who would witness that would probably go through so much mental trauma and so much detachment from reality that they would probably completely hate every living being or not feel a thing for them. Because they would just tell themselves, oh, you'll be back after the next crunch.
You'll be back after the break.
So what's another life,
Yeah.
So they would be anti-life.
Yeah, very much anti-life. But yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see that sort of. Unfortunately, we won't be here to see it. Or maybe we will. Maybe in like in 100 years
maybe we are here.
I don't know. Like we don't. There's this weird thing where say, because like you said, energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed, and so in a sense heaven, or if you want to call it hell, is earth, and heaven is sort of like the stars that sort of look down onto the earth, or the mortal plane, if you will, because earth is very, obviously now we're starting to colonize other planets, so he's calling it earth. It's kind of like, oh well, no, but anyways, so it'd be quite interesting if sort of it's just recycled matter from the universe and sort of recreating new beings. And so in a way, like eventually down the line, you are technically part of a new body, thus being your reincarnation body. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's already somewhat the case in a really like stretched out matter.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, okay, so you end up being ash, or you end up being,
decomposed
soil. Yeah. You end up being one of those two.
Yeah.
You're spread across the ground. You end up being in someone's food.
Yeah.
You end up being part of someone. You end up something else.
Yeah.
So, like if we think of it at a very like stretched scale, I guess. I guess we do become other things, I suppose.
Would you imagine like in some cultures, like, sniff. I need him to come back.
That's your uncle.
That's your uncle. I need your uncle to come back. He's selling me $10. And he goes, the grandkids like, hey, you in there? You remember me?
That's like the government keeping debts for people who have died.
Yeah. So if they come back, they have to pay you back. Excuse me, sir. We still haven't closed your bank accounts. You still owe us this plus interest.
But that's an actual thing, because like if you don't take it, you don't get the inheritance. It's like that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But is it based on the idea that like they might repay it at some point?
Oh, maybe, yeah. We're down the line. It's like I remember your great ancestors 36th on the line. He still owes me a debt. He told me that he would give me $20 after I beat him in a pool game. I still haven't seen it yet.
I'm still waiting.
So I started being really petty per generation. You know what I mean? But yeah, like that would be like a sort of wouldn't that be sort of a kind of a how do you say, kind of a meaningless life in a sense? Because ultimately you'll have an endless amount of tries. So even if you fail this one, you just go back to the next one.
For a lot of people, that would be like a kind of crushing discovery on the spot.
Yeah.
But I personally feel that maybe it would actually give people the opportunity to make up for mistakes if they were aware of it.
Yeah. Well,
or it would probably make people understand winning and losing and living and dying differently. Sure. Like it would change culture. So we wouldn't see it that way, I think. Imagine
though, like you would have memories you were past reincarnation, if you want to call it.
Right.
And you found out you did something super atrocious, like you fucking slaughtered an entire colony. Like how, like I think that would be sort of like kind of a whoa, that's kind of like, and it's like guessing yourself,
Right. It's
I'm
weird
capable of,
but yeah.
I think having the ability of complete memory loss is kind of a gift in a sense, because ultimately you don't want to know what you did in the past.
Yeah, it helps. It helps to not know.
I kind of envy those people, like right now, like normal people who manage to completely forget stuff that happens to them like 2 years ago or something. Or like, like a lot of people that, you start talking to them about stuff and you remember this moment? Like, nah, I completely forgot. Like those people, like I kind of envy them because in a sense, they could literally fuck up and forget it. Whereas those who have like really good memories are just like kind of trapped in their own like sort of reality. It's like shit.
Yeah. Memory is also a recording of all your failures, but that's also due to like our fixation on success and failure in a very like traditional sense.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I think that we could reevaluate everything we understand about existence through that notion of it's all gonna happen again.
It's cheat codes, man. Cheat codes.
I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a very it could be a good thing actually for the world if they were to learn this.
I think the people would just use it in order to fuck their friends up, or
really?
friends, so to sort of get an edge over someone or something else. Say for example, in terms of right now, technology wise, having the past memories of stuff just completely, like say there's like they created a artificial wormhole that allows you to travel through parts of space in like a fraction of a second, like in Star Trek or something. Well, warp reality, yeah. And then something in the past failed, and then so it created a black hole that manages to swallow half the universe,
right,
or something like that. So like now they'll just do the same thing, but then fix that error. So that's a positive thing. But then if they use that positive thing and then you sort of just use it to sort of colonize the other part of this of space, it's kind of like maybe there was a reason why it failed.
Right. I think eternal recurrence, as I call that idea,
sure,
is not just good, just bad. It's just is and thus it's more of everything.
Sure, yeah.
It's more humanity, but more inhumanity. It's more of everything that exists. It's a bit like the discovery of a new piece of technology that changes everything.
Yeah.
It has its ups, it has its downs. It just means more of it.
It's called the strange effect. Because their mama came in a bargain.
Strange effect.
It's a very strange effect.
Very strange.
But what do you think? What do you think about the idea of maybe dreams being correlated to that? So, like, say it's your dreams is like a sort of access to your past life, or maybe even a parallel universe idea. What do you think?
Well, I've heard so many strange dreams that would make for bizarre universes.
I mean, parallel universes aren't exactly like out of reach. It's kind of like the same thing, just the choices you take in life are kind of just different.
Right.
So, in a sense, it kind of makes sense.
Right.
Dreams are kind of like memories, but with like mixed with like subconscious thoughts and like different like parts of different memories mixed together that like sort of creates a new reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, and I'm going to get really technical here.
Sure.
We do create an alternate reality in our own minds, right? So it exists.
Yeah.
In our thoughts.
Yeah.
It is materially there. If we could peer through our own eyes while we're sleeping, we would see an alternate reality that we truly believe in while we're sleeping.
We're hoping.
Right. So
I really want this dream to happen.
So in a sense, it exists. And that's it. Because it's very I think, therefore I am.
Sure.
Philosophical. But yeah, if you believe in it, it does exist. It's just it exists within confines of your brain at that moment. And sometimes some people say that they have the same dream over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's like you get to return to that world as if it exists.
do you think the idea of deja vus are kind of like a glitch in the memory system, or it's like kind of like a literal like, oh look, you're in a loop type thing?
Yeah, they're really strange. That's for sure. I mean, they could be, if we connected to our previous discussion about the eternal recurrence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
it could be just like, oh, I kind of, a part of me instinctually remembers.
It's kind of like a memory from a different generation, different eon.
Right.
I've gotten so good at recognizing them. I can predict what's gonna happen next, and it's just the most funniest thing ever. Like, oh, hey, look, watch, he's gonna do this. You know, how did you know that? It's like, I already saw it. I can project the future.
I was there.
It's a superpower.
Yeah, it could be something that we haven't discovered yet about the human psyche, but there are explanations for it. But it's based on our own brain's pattern recognition, you know, because we're like really good computers, basically. And I guess pattern recognition is one of our functions.
Yeah.
So, you know, by recognizing a pattern, we construct for ourselves almost a narrative of what will happen. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, it's a 1-for-1. It is this, you know?
Yeah. I did this before.
Right.
I recognize this.
It's like you making the puzzle for yourself to solve.
Sure.
At the moment. And your brain basically giving you this information that, oh, it's exactly what you're thinking, even if maybe it isn't.
I heard a study that it was, well, I heard a study. I read a study where it was because it was your neurons are going so fast that, you know, like there's a delay between what your eyes see and what is actually happening.
Right.
And there's like sort of a glitch where your brain sends the same signal twice.
Right.
And you kind of see the same thing twice. And like that is kind of like the effect of deja vu, where it's sort of like the same image that happened, but like it's like, oh shit, like it's like they're just like, oh no, we pressed the button twice. Oh shit.
React now.
We print 2 copies, damn it.
Yeah. That is something I've heard of as well. I think that explains them pretty simply.
In a scientific sense, in like in
a really rational, material sense.
I feel like sort of you know how back in the day, magic. Well, science now was considered magic back then because it wasn't really like.
We also had pseudo sciences that were basically magic.
Yeah, but it wasn't like sort of, you know, like the idea of fire is kind of like nowadays you understand like how molecules vibrate and it's like it gives off energy, and then now you know like how, you know, like even if you don't see a particle, you know that it exists, or subconsciously you actually like kind of like feel it. But at the same time, like this idea of made deja vu would be sort of the source of clairvoyance. Whereas since you know, like, you know, obviously there's the element magic, there's the idea of magnetism, it's like the push and pull idea. But then, you know, clairvoyance would be the idea of just sort of literally some guy having deja vu in the past, and like this person would be just like, oh wait, I know what's gonna happen here, and he says it, reprojects it before it actually happens.
And then he became the oracle,
and he's like, oh my god, he's like God.
In Greek times they did have oracles, so you know,
but exactly. So
maybe they chose them for those reasons.
But exactly, I think like maybe like some guy accidentally hit like, you know, an electric eel or you know, had a static shock and then he became Zeus. You know, the idea of like lightning, controlling lightning or something, or like the fires of a forest went off and some 30,000 years ago.
Elemental based gods or deities or spirits have always been at the core of many beliefs because of how primal and how obvious they are visually. You know, it's like, oh, a big flash from the sky, you know, thunder, oh, lightning, oh, what is all of this? And it comes from the heavens, so, you know, it has an aura of mystique around it.
It's very cult-like.
Yeah, well, it's easy to start believing in something, extrapolating something from that.
Yeah.
When you haven't built a system yet, you know? So that's probably why a lot of those earlier societies have this pull towards, you know, this natural occurrence, it's all because of this.
And then the idea, because we're so great at creating, like imagining things out of our heads and creating stories, we ultimately create a deity to represent the source of this power, like kind of like the Loch Ness monster, or even the idea of gods becoming, you know, miracles. You know, miracles happen, and they sort of surround that miracle around one person, and sort of
having them be the manifestation of everything. That we attribute.
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of the Bible where Jesus comes back to life, and then I honestly think the dude was on shrooms and something. He just saw some shadow or something, but don't quote me on this because you know. But it brings me to the next question. Well, what do you think? Do you think we could trust ancient literature? As a man of philosophy yourself, you very much kind of like source your entire ideology, if you will, from scripts of the past.
Right.
So in a sense, in a sense, like, do you believe like what Aristotle or what freaking whoever wrote? Do you believe they actually genuinely wanted to say that, mean that, or because of how society was back then? For them, it was sort of like a very different meaning.
So I have a pretty nifty answer for that one, I think.
Sure.
Because there's one philosopher that is all at the top of my personal ranking of philosophers. I will release a top 10 one day of my
Mojo's
top 10 philosophers.
Yeah, don't forget about number 7.
Right. Number 7 is a stinger. But yeah, all the way at the top would be Socrates.
Sure.
And the thing about Socrates is we don't have any direct writings from him. He's one of the most influential philosophers of all time, easily. And yet, there's no writings from him. There are secondhand accounts from Plato, his friend.
I think he was on shrooms as well.
Oh, Plato is a whole other. Plato is not in my top 10. Though Socrates, by many accounts, since we don't have any proof of Socrates himself existing, Plato may have invented Socrates, yet we quote Socrates all the time, and we mention him as a historical figure, yet he's quite likely invented character, an idealized person that Plato made up. But the thing is, Socrates, the idea, does exist. And that's why I would still cite him, no matter if he has existed or not, as one of my favorite philosophers, because the ideas behind what he says, whether he be real or not, I feel are universal and I feel have meaning, despite whether we can validate that.
Well, if he weren't real, then don't you think that would mean that it was Plato's ideas?
But that's the thing, is that we can't know, but we know that Plato, in the theory where Socrates isn't real.
Well, regardless if he's real or not.
Plato thought of the character of Socrates.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in that case, the character of Socrates is stated to not being Plato himself, because Plato talks about having his friend Socrates in a conversation and disagreeing with him. Thus, Socrates, the character, is differentiated from Plato.
Yeah, but
if Plato thought up those ideas, then that's cool.
Yeah,
but I specifically attribute my beliefs to Socrates.
But I mean, that's the whole idea of the Socratic arguments, having sort of refuting your own arguments. And
exactly.
Testing it and trying to figure out a third option where you sort of have it's more of a middle ground with both sides combined.
It's more of as being skeptical and never assuming you know something.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically you're kind of like whatever it is, you know, this is my ideas. It could or not be true, but these are the facts that I know of for certain.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of my own life to attribute to how Socrates allegedly lived. So I think that those ideas hold ground no matter if he lived or not, because he lives in a lot of our heads. So, he's as real as any fictional character that is very important to culture.
Well, those scripts, the original scripts from, was it 2000 plus years ago, were they're still like in museums, or is it more sort of interpretation, like rewrites of it?
We do have people that basically adapt them, or rather, we have some people that adapt them, but we also have some people that decipher them.
Sure, but I mean that's the thing though, because they're deciphers, they're not like word for word. I mean, you decipher one thing from French to English is a whole different fucking story.
Well, yeah. to further your point, any adaptation changes something. It's like when you read a book, no one has the same conception.
Well, yeah.
Of what everyone looks like, what everything looks like. So the second that you're not reading the source document, and even when you are reading source document, your idea of the source document is different from another's.
Exactly.
So there is no like original, and there is no one single thing. That's why a lot of people challenge the very idea of objectivity existing and of just being impartial. Those ideas being almost illogical in the sense that we consider them typically.
I think the concept of objectivity could only work in a pure and applied science field, where laws of physics or laws of nature domain.
I think it's the only domain where we can stretch that maybe it exists, but even then it's no certainty. And I think that
granted, because we don't really know for certainty the whole thing.
Objectivity in the sense that we would mean it to be isn't being detached, but rather being attached to a viewpoint and acknowledging it. So I don't think someone arriving with an objective viewpoint into a conversation wouldn't say, I am objective. That is bull. That's just preposterous. It would more rather be someone saying, hello, I have this opinion. That is my biases are this.
Yeah.
Now let me explain them, but also explain what may be against my bias.
Sure, yeah.
And that's how you truly get any semblance of true objectivity. And I feel like that's what Socrates believed in as well. Again, everything ends up being I feel.
Yeah.
Because there is no I know. Everything is
that's
us,
the concept of hubris. It's sort of a thinking based on a basis of small knowledge you've learned over the years. You think that the answer, you have the answer to everything, and so having that sort of ideology of saying, okay, I know this, that, and the other because I've gone through it and I've accomplished it. It's like saying, there's only one way to accomplish something, and it's my way.
That's why one of my favorite Socrates quotes. And I'm going to misquote it. I'm going to put it in my own words because everyone does that.
Sure.
But I'm going to quote the idea of it. So one of my favorite quotes is that the only one who truly knows something is the one who knows he knows nothing. Because everyone says that they know things.
Sure.
But claiming that you do not underlies the knowledge that no one does, underlies that you are at least aware that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because already no one knows anything.
Well, that's kind of like the best way to win an argument. It's like saying, I don't.
But it's the only, for Socrates, it's the only way that there should be arguments, or that we should.
Well, but that definition, no arguments would ever end. Because ultimately it's I know nothing.
That's the main critique of Socrates as a philosopher, is that everything comes down to an endless
It's exactly.
Question, response, refuting, response, and everything ends up being an endless kind of whining.
Yeah.
That's what critiques.
It's also like a question of existentialism, where it's just like, what am I?
Right. It's not.
Know.
Yeah. I understand why there are critiques of Socrates. Yet I would stand by my point that they're extremely important values for critical thinking. But yeah, to answer your question, finally, after dancing around in circles.
Yeah, you're Socratesing all over.
I'm really Socratesing you. But yeah, the idea that a source text is 100% like something you can trust is pretty bunk. Because even in my medieval English studies, we kept talking about how, well, of course, history is written by the victors.
Yeah.
Of course, everything.
Well, that's the thing.
From one perspective. So nothing is saved from people's radical opinions on one thing, on the other, on thinking, oh, those people, they don't know what they're talking about, or those people, every historical text has slivers of that.
Yeah.
And it cheats everything. So.
Well, I mean, I think that's the biggest problem of our current sort of history education is very much like they're only depicting the accomplishments, if you will, of what the victors have done, and like,
right.
And like, I guess dabbling in like what happens to like the losers.
Right. I suppose we're a lot thinking about the colonizers and the natives.
Yeah, I mean, like if you watch, if you read on the past of Montreal, it started off with it was the natives were here, and then there was the French that came in, and then the French got massacred, and then the English came in, and then like after that arc, like nobody knew what happened with the French. You know what I mean? Like. No. Like after literally after the massacre, was it 10,000 people? 10,000 French people got massacred in Montreal or something. Like got surrounded. They had them in the first half. They had him in the first half of the timeline. They got him. They got him good.
But then
the Fire Nation came in.
Yeah, they really did. And
it was kind of like funny because you just saw the timeline. It's sort of after the British colony. Everything else just kind of like disappeared.
Well, there's also there's a lot of really funny anecdotes relating to that, like the French crown just deciding to leave, to not come to the rescue.
It's like, no, we're done.
They're like, oh, okay.
I mean, it was a side project.
It's okay. We'll focus on our main project.
Oh my gosh. I mean, England is like on an island and stuff. They have to unite themselves with all the other kingdoms to match us. We're so powerful.
They need to link up India and Canada. They're too busy doing that, right?
They were like, we gotta fucking colonize everybody because we are fucking tiny.
Yeah, but to put a pin on our conversation about that. Historical documents have to be read in all scholarly contexts, philosophical and whatnot. They have to be read with mindfulness about, well, this is from a perspective. Everything has always been from a perspective, and thus there are personal biases. So that is to be considered.
What is nice though nowadays is that we're currently promoting a mindset where us as like young readers, we have to be mindful of, well, like you said, being like when you're reading a script,
right?
It's very much a perspective, a singular perspective, and so now like a lot of like, I guess, young adults, university scholars, they're like slowly realizing, even like younger than that, they're slowly realizing about the atrocities that happened throughout histories and like all the victims, and like you see the then, and then like you see the now, like where like say the natives, for example, see how the natives were back then, like it was rowing free and stuff. Now they're like fucking drunk at a corner bus stop. You know what I mean? So you see those two, but you're never shown what happened in between.
Right.
Kind of like up to you. What do you think happened? But then, like nowadays, a lot of people are slowly like realizing and like sort of having more conversations about like all of the bad stuff that they gone through, all of the, all of the sufferings they had to go through. It's kind of like a lot of people knew about the black people like black slaveries that were shipped from Africa all the way down to southern parts of of Americas, but like nobody really talked about the natives.
Right.
You know
exactly.
It's kind of like washed. Like it was like
it's just that's on the side there. We'll just
it's like that. Oh, those guys. Oh yeah. We'll completely forget.
We'll look the other way.
They have reserves. They're fine. You know what I mean?
Fine.
It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's literally that thing, in the interview with Rogan and Franco. Yeah. When they pass by that made up street corner and everything seems perfect there, and everyone is well fed.
Yeah.
And
it's this bunch of bullshit
putting on the front. They don't want to address everything that's going on in the back.
Well, yeah, that's why I love
it's basically what we do. It's basically what most nations do with their social problems. They're like,
But nobody wants to see the ugly things. Everyone wants to see the happy things. Everyone's, which is kind of sad because nowadays, because of social media, everything's very much aware. So like people are a lot more.
Exactly. That's the good thing about social media, though. Lots more people have access to information. Yeah. It has its bad sides, but it has its good sides.
But the unfortunate thing is that because of that, everyone's mood is like super depressed and like super like
I mean, the
stressed out.
24-hour news contributes to that because the news cycle only focuses.
On a particular
90% of it is about what's terrible that's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean,
even
those acts of terrorism, like if you look at the background behind it, it's not illogical. It's not like, oh yeah, a couple dudes said, you know what, I'm fucking bored, we're gonna blow some fucking cities up. It's like literally like, there's a behind the scenes behind everything. Granted, like a lot of people will argue that the actions of how you sort of manifest your ideologies very much reflect if your ideology is good or bad.
I would disagree with that.
Very much, yeah. So like, the idea of like the same thing, like Hitler's idea where he sort of wanted kind of equality, where like sort of he wanted opportunity for his people, and so he said, fuck it, let's kill everybody.
Some ideologies request that the practice of them be violent, and that's a different case from like there's such a thing as eco-terrorism.
Sure.
I don't think being ecology minded is a bad thing. I think it is objectively a good thing in every scenario, but I do not approve of eco-terrorism.
I don't approve.
The practice and the ideology are separate things.
Sure, yeah.
Like people you agree with also do things you don't agree with, and vice versa. People you disagree with sometimes end up in a funny position where they do something that you would agree with. You're just like, oh, but I don't like what this person believes in.
Yeah.
They're doing a good thing. So I have to begrudgingly like respect that, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's not as simple as just he believes in the good thing, he believes in the bad thing to a degree.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it is possible to believe in the bad thing. If the bad thing is fascism, from my perspective, there's no possible way to justify.
Well, it's very much a selfish rule. It'd be like,
the whole doctrine, it's like in the rules where there has to be like a subhuman class that you mistreat. So by its very nature, but a lot of ideologies aren't like that. A lot of them aren't. By the very nature, you have to be disrespectful toward people. Most of them, it's more of a like
they're witches, burn them alive.
Minded, or it's different. Like it's debatable. I think like fascism is one of the very few where it's zero debatable.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's more sort of the way that people practice certain ideologies are sort of more in a fascist manner. In a sense where they're like
right.
You don't believe what I believe in, so you're an asshole. I'm gonna nowadays it's not very much like a sort of
I think we have to make a distinction, though, between fascism and desperation.
Well, sure.
We have to know that when people are really desperate, they do things that can be either out of character or in character, but don't characterize the things they believe in. You know, like it's kind of a fight or flight stress position where you just suddenly do something because you're scared.
Move, just fucking yo, you piece of shit, I'm gonna kill you. It's kind of like the idea of like when the dude killed fucking, was it 6 Asian girls at the salon, where it's like it was having a bad day. It's kind of like, yeah, it's right. Like that same idea is kind of like fucking weird. It's just like
no, that guy was totally guilty and had no excuse, I would say.
Yeah, but the way the system sort of like, well, the system sort of projected it was like,
because
having a bad day, you know.
Right. But that is I believe racially biased.
Yeah, very much so.
It's very much because he's white, and because there is very much Asian hate going on.
Well, it's very much in the South as well. It was in Georgia, so you know.
Of course they would justify it. It's the same way that, people that are just living their lives, but so happen to be minorities, just get killed by accident by the police. Yeah. But people with rifles so happen to get away with it when they're white. It's always, but we managed to not kill that one, even though he had a murder weapon. He had an assault rifle.
The second amendment? Fucking right. Allows me to bear weapons.
Right.
Jeez. I mean, I think down in the South. Well, down in the South, we're not much different. It's just that we're sort of like a more passive aggressive type of racism.
Right. Exactly.
We don't like you, but we'll still let you live.
We'll slip it under the rug for now, but when we get the opportunity,
once our military power is strong, we will take you down. Because right now, if we do something bad, everyone will jump our asses. We're kind of like the sort of, those little brothers who were like they're tough because the big brother were there to like back them up. And they're like, yeah, you know what? You can't do nothing to me because my big brother will protect me.
My big brother's right over to the south, but you can't do shit.
You can't do shit. You touch me, man. Yo, you're going to die. It's kind of like fucking weird.
Yeah. Very much so that there is. I think that is why, because right-wing media has a lot to gain about painting very vocal and very either vocally or some other way aggressively left-leaning people. They paint them as either extremists or sometimes they even ironically refer to them as like fascist. Yeah. There's just a very funny Antifa is actually fascist thing.
Yeah.
That I don't exactly agree with. But also because, there's not even a structure to the movement. But
sure.
Aside from that specific case, I'm using that as a case example. Of course, they can dissuade everyone from, participating in social change if they just say, oh, but they're evil. Like, look how many trucks and stores they're breaking.
Vandalizing.
Yeah, they're vandalizing. They're protesting for something important. But let's not talk about the thing. Let's just talk about them breaking things.
Well, they're sort of like targeting the action instead of the actual like reason.
They don't want to engage with the idea because they can't actually like have a debate with it and hope to win. They have a better chance at winning through not engaging with it and engaging with the action and saying, look, they are acting like fascists. They are fascists, and it completely, it's a non-argument. It's not
very much like it's propaganda. It is propaganda. I mean, it's very much like an associative manner of doing stuff. It's very much like how we studied Eisenstein montage type of deal.
Yeah.
Like, look, picture, and then face. It's like you're like, huh? What do you think? Huh? Don't they look alike? It's kind of like,
don't you think? Look at his little mustache.
And they're like, see, we're giving you freedom of thinking. See,
I really find that hilarious. A lot of conservatives or neoconservatives and more right-leaning people qualify often on the internet too themselves as, oh, we're not like the sheep, we're free thinkers.
Yeah.
And then they're just going to turn around and be like, oh, by the way, read the Bible.
Yeah.
Free thinkers. Now start thinking something that was written millennia ago.
Traditionally speaking. It's like, look, it's gone well so far.
But it's just like a counter.
Well, I think it's because also a lot of people tend to believe it because it requires less work. Because technically, like in a sense, where you live in a world where you have to change something, you have to do it yourself and actually be active.
Right.
Whereas the other one, you could be passive and just be like,
it's way easier to not care.
Yeah,
that's why it's a virtue.
And so that's why like a lot of older folks would rather be on the side of like more conservative. Also, granted, there's also the idea of because they've been used to it and been subjected to it by
they're indoctrinated
for ages.
It's all they ever knew.
Exactly, but also it's because of like like when people say, oh, you're too old to change. It's kind of the same ideology where it's sort of like, in a sense, yeah, because then you're kind of like old, but you don't want to fight no more. I mean, you just want to relax.
Yeah. I think that's you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, in a sense, like you just. That's why I don't really blame people who are like sort of ignorant to that fact and sort of like even if they're sort of very bigoted, it's kind of like
Well, that's why I agree with that you shouldn't always hold it personally towards them. Well, okay, there are cases where people have access to the education or still
and they choose to not. Yeah.
There is such a thing as holding people accountable.
Sure. Yes.
But and let's go back to talking about old authors. So
sure.
Often you read a book for a class and then the teacher says, oh yeah, that segment hasn't really aged well because the author says this, which is a racist slur or something like that.
Sure.
Makes a kind of
a snarky remark. Yeah. A snarky remark.
Right. So the thing
these guys, he's a piece of shit.
You do have to tell yourself this is from an age past. So, like the objective way to view it is to acknowledge, well, this doesn't pass today, but it's because it was written back then.
Exactly.
This doesn't make it correct or right, but it is understandable that this person thought this because this was very common back then.
Sure.
We have beliefs that will probably be outdated by the time we're older.
Well, that also happens from culture to culture and from different countries, which I find quite funny whenever you see like, because the thing I don't like about like sort of Western ideologies very much sort of like because we're so advanced, like we know everything, we're so scientific.
But that's really some low key fascist.
No, but as I'm saying, it's very much
we are actually superior though.
It's like look at us. We're free. We have healthcare. We have fucking healthcare. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I don't really like the sort of pattern where we use maths and sort of our logic or logical thinking or facts, you want to call it, sort of to be like, oh look, the statistics say this, and then this is this, and this is facts. Look at this, and we did it. You guys don't know nothing. But then let's make business with China. Fuck it. What I mean? It's kind of like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
It's the other thing is facts are completely reliant on feelings, but because it's people are hired to interpret stats.
Sure, yeah.
The stats don't say something; they are a number.
Yeah.
Right. And already the studies often can be,
But they can't represent the entire population. That's the thing.
It depends.
It's a small
on the
portion,
study, right?
It's a very small portion.
Take numbers from anywhere, but have them mean something. You need someone qualified to interpret them.
Yeah.
And often you're going to hire someone who believes what you believe to interpret them how you want them to be interpreted them.
Yeah.
You know? So facts are not factual.
Well, yeah, very much so. It's very ironic.
Facts depend on your feelings.
I think the best
really care about your feelings.
I think the best way that's the thing though, because a lot of people are very sort of, the idea of smarts for me is the idea of how to like use what you see and manipulate it and sort of like projecting your own sort of message, if you will. And so like the idea of street smarts and all, and there's book smarts and all of them, different other smarts, but also like those two are like very much like you could be like the smartest dude at school, but be completely fucking clueless when it comes to IRL stuff. Versus the same thing happens reciprocated, where you could be completely like, you know, you could outwit anyone. You could show him a dog and say this is made of gold, and sell it. Right?
Yeah, you
could
be the best snake oil salesman of all time,
but not know the fundamentals of what you know of arithmetics.
Right.
Like it's very funny because you play with numbers, but you don't know nothing.
Exactly, because once again, there is no objective truth, and thus smarts or intelligence is entirely based on what we value as a society.
Yeah.
Because in older societies, there were people that we considered very intelligent, and it wasn't for the same reasons necessarily.
Yeah.
And intelligence is such a vague term, and there are many languages that divide that term into many different terms.
Well, do you qualify IQ as a good determining factor as intelligence?
I don't. And
I think that's more of an ego boost.
But I say this as someone with a reportedly high IQ, but I don't believe in the validity for the purposes of intelligence because, well, first of all, IQ states in itself that it is like how fast you can answer to a set of puzzles, or rather,
so your problem solving skills and your
so
analysis.
Already there it's restrictive.
Yeah.
But even then, if you read up on the origins of the IQ test, it was made by a what we call now a white supremacist who wanted to prove that white people were
smartest.
On average, and so it is racially biased, and it is a test that is inherently founded on racism. So I think it's disqualified from being an objective test.
Well, as I quote one of our older teachers, that didn't age well. Because now everyone turns to the Asian guy for math questions.
Yeah.
And by the way, any Asian guy or girl, it doesn't matter what part of it. Yeah, you could ask an Indian guy. He probably knows everything.
But yeah, I don't place faith on the term intelligence relating to IQ, because I know. Well, I don't think myself much superior to 90% of the world. At least, I think intelligence, as we view it, can be a dangerous thing to apply to people, to some rather than others.
Should be a wisdom test. I think wisdom's a far better.
Well, first we need to decipher what wisdom is, but I agree that wisdom is more precise and is more attainable as a quantifiable,
And also anyone can get it. It's not a question of genetics.
Exactly. That's why I think it is a better thing to try and quantify or qualify.
Yeah.
Because the idea that some people just don't have what some others have are based on biases.
Yeah.
and based on assumptions already. So
it's kind of an unfair advantage, if you will. It's kind of like you're stuck.
It's not fair from the get-go. So why would you even count it?
Well, exactly.
Just to gloat about how much better you are.
Yeah, it's an ego boost. I have a bigger number. It's a dick measuring contest, basically.
Yeah. I will fully admit that when I learned mine, I felt pretty good about myself on the spot there. But now I just think about it with what I've learned about it, and
fucking white supremacist, so fascist, man.
Wow,
I knew it was something off about you. This niceness,
real bad about me.
This niceness is such a facade.
Right, it's all facade. I can dissimulate it due to my high IQ.
Yeah, high IQ. I can project my thoughts on the people because I have
psychic abilities.
I have psychic abilities. I can implement my thoughts on you, my willpower.
Man,
but yeah, I think honestly, wisdom would be a great thing to not only qualify but quantify as sort of like a way to sort of, especially in order to lead a major position like government, for example. Wisdom is definitely a must.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a sister test to the IQ, which is the EQ. So emotional quotient.
Yeah.
And that one, I don't know this one's history, so I can't say if this one was made by some white supremacist.
So it's a white woman now. We had a white male, we had a white woman now.
I don't know. But from what I've been told, it holds more grounds. Because it's not based on the idea that this is objective. It's more based on what is the optimal result within a society.
So what is the test sort of evaluates?
So it gives you like some prompts where some of them say, this person is feeling bad, has said this. Would you tell them this? What would you do?
It's more based on morals then.
Yeah.
Less than an emotion.
Well, it depends, because sometimes it gets shifty what morality is.
Sure, yeah.
Depending on the question.
It's a human concept, right?
It's pretty black and white, but sometimes you see the layers.
Sure.
And I guess that is the but I do see a failing in that one as well. I don't want to say that I think
I'm pretty sure every single test. That's the whole point. It's a test. It's like it's not a direct like, oh look, it's gonna work.
Right. A test is more just to get some data.
Yeah.
More so than to get an answer. Yeah. Because out of the data you analyze things, and then you make
even your final conclusion is not an answer. It's more
not
of a
even
theory.
You get from that you could just create a
theory or like a probability or like
a hypothesis. Yeah. And it's from there that you start testing the hypothesis
until you come to a relatively general agreement.
And even then, that's just a general agreement
amongst our people, amongst the selective people.
Like the tightest knot of truth and objectivity and like unshakably real thing is still just tied with a little knot that you could just like pull on the sides if you chose to. There is nothing in this sense, there is nothing sacred. There is nothing that cannot be challenged.
Yeah. Well, because there's a whole kind of like, I think that's the whole point of existence, sort of figuring out your own meaning.
Yeah.
It's kind of like here, have fun. It's a fucking canvas.
Right.
Yeah. Write some shit, draw it. I don't care.
That's why anyone's thoughts are as valid and as real as anyone or as anything that actually exists,
So yeah.
Thoughts are as real as reality. So
well, I mean, on that final note, do you think we live in a simulated or matrix, if you want to call it, a simulated reality? Because I think so here's my idea, right? It's not much of a sort of literal sense, or even maybe it could be a literal sense, but it's more sort of an awareness sense, where a lot of people have sort of this, they go through life and stuff, and they sort of bounce from one, like medias are kind of like the puppet masters, if you want to call it, and behind that there's those puppet masters, and behind that is even more puppet masters. But like the ones who sort of like follow the trends,
right?
Like those people, like sort of like I guess the people in the Matrix, and the very few who manage to sort of like, they're still in it, obviously, but manage to be aware that they're in it. Kind of like Neo, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, Trinity in that sense.
Right.
They're sort of like the ones who've managed to sort of break from the shackles of the reality and sort of try and comprehend why or who's running things. Like we're not in the stage where we manage to like sort of get out of it or even completely abolish the whole idea, but we're very much in a state where like some of us are sort of like, you know, there's something off here. Let's figure it out. You know what I mean? Well, yeah.
Right.
What's your thought?
I think that to a degree, if we were so deep within a matrix or within a simulation,
sure,
there would be no difference.
In what sense? What do you mean?
Like, what's the difference between the thought of we are in a simulation that is extremely lifelike versus we aren't in a simulation, but people are hiding things from you about reality? What is the difference? Effectually, what is the difference?
Like, what would it do to you? Like, what
yeah,
for you?
What's the difference? You know, like there, to an extent, you would live a similar life.
Sure, yeah.
And okay, depending, what is the secret? What is the thing they're hiding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the idea of sort of being like, oh, maybe. Well, I want to know the source of it. It's more like a sense of curiosity, whereas the other one is sort of like, oh, you're kind of paranoid. Like someone's hiding shit from me. Like, what is it? Whereas the other one's literally like on a basis of like, I wonder what's going on. What's behind the curtain here?
I think it's telling that so much of fiction is about. Imagine if the government or the companies were hiding this. You know, it's almost always based on a imaginary conspiracy theory of sorts. There's always some element of the conspiracy within our fiction to an extent.
Naruto run fucking Area 51.
Yeah, it's so far reaching that people 100% legitimately believe in it.
I mean, you know, to be fair, like it's again, like I said, it's the idea of having an idea, sort of something to sort of imagine, sort of like, oh, maybe it's kind of like, oh, like a curiosity, something to stimulate your curiosity. It's like, imagine. Granted, you're forced to do something very illegal, like walk into government property, but
I mean, power to the people who don't do anything immoral, and like their conspiracies or. Either are interested in them or believe in them.
I'm sure when Einstein was doing his little particle accelerator work, he blew up a couple factories. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
He's trying to figure out what basis of an atom is, and then he's like, "Oh, look at this!
He's done his fair share of illegal things on his way to finding things."
Like that's why whenever you see a depiction of a scientist, usually depicted as a mad scientist because he just blows shit up. But it's kind of like, well, I mean, nobody really knows what happens because at that point in time, he's the first or she's the first to ever do it.
Right.
So you don't know what's going to happen. Theoretically, you could imagine or sort of project what may happen. But then again, there's so many components in life that, like, you know, maybe it, like there's this quote. Something that Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying, like two elements, like, you know, oxygen is extremely flammable and hydrogen is like a very sort of unstable, well, you know, very powerful component and dangerous. When you put them together, it makes water. You know what I mean? Like when you mix two completely like dangerous elements, you get like a completely stable, sort of like nurturing thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the idea of like sort of, I'm hoping that this could work, and then not blow up the entire, you know, quarter fucking mile of this factory.
I mean, it shows maybe that chaos does not necessarily breed chaos.
Yeah,
it might, but
it might.
no certainties.
Well, I mean, there's the same thing where, like, IRL, when a sort of a peaceful protest could just turn completely fucking violent in like a second.
Yeah, things can go south.
And most of the time it's just because, hey, you know what? Why might as well, there's a distraction outside. We could do something about this. Would you imagine? Like, I feel like that's kind of like the sad thing about sort of change, because a lot of people are in disagreement with it, so it's so much easier to like sort of dismantle it. It's literally like, when you're building something from scratch, right? Anything really, even a fucking Lego block from scratch, like you move it just a bit and the whole thing collapses. So that's why I feel like it's so like, oh look, see, they've never done it. It's impossible. Yeah, because everyone keeps kicking the goddamn building down,
right,
when it's not even built yet. What do you want?
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of people would rather poke fun at people trying really hard to create lasting positive change. They would rather do that than apply a bit of effort, or even just not being in the way of change. It's gonna be
the idea of, I mean, it's a lot easier to judge than to actually do.
So in that perspective, isn't it kind of not surprising that some people do things that are out of line for things they really believe in are for the greater good?
Yeah.
I feel like we have to have a bit of compassion for the extremist to at least understand what that means.
Yeah.
Because first, before labeling someone an extremist and just writing someone off as just an extremist to what?
Yeah. I mean,
what kind? Why? What were the material conditions involved? What is the history leading up to this moment?
Yeah. Do you think an extremist is necessarily bad?
That's a good one. I would want to say no.
Okay.
But it's incredibly like,
it's ambiguous. I mean, it's completely
very ambiguous, because I think it's only not bad when, and like, I know it's stupid, but it's only not bad when it's something good. Or it's only not a danger or a problem when it's out of necessity for the greater good. And a lot of people would claim that all of their actions are for the greater good, no matter what. So it's hard to qualify.
Well, the greater good of what exactly? Our species, or
of
like
who and of what subsect, and of
like, if we thrive, good. Someone else is gonna drop. If we thrive, someone else is gonna, or something.
I mean, on one hand, some people would say, relating into COVID, like protecting the economy is the greater good. Some would be like, no, it's to keep people safe, housed, fed, not sick.
Yeah.
There's people would argue that the economy and that sending people to work would be the greater good. They would argue that.
Yeah.
And personally, I would disagree, but I see that there's an argument there. Before labeling the person who's asking, I would still disagree with that.
He's tripping balls.
I would say that's terrible. I disagree. But they think they are doing something good, or rather, maybe it sells what they want better if they say they're doing it for the greater good.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess in a sense, everyone's kind of like doing it for the greater good of for I mean, the thing is, if
the greater good of who?
The thing is, if they're doing it for themselves, it's very much the greater good for themselves. Which is kind of,
there's always a greater good.
It's very much a
but what is greater good? Greater as in you are valued more than the others, or greater as in the greater number? Greater good is already a term that can be turned into something vague.
Well, yeah. That's the thing is the idea of many interpretations is so like you could so use that in any argument. Like,
it's so all encompassing.
Yeah, I try to save him, you know what I mean? But like the person happens to be a massive killer. But hey, it's a life. So I'm good. I sleep well at night.
It's ethics are a very complicated field of study.
Well, because there's no answer to it. That's the thing.
There's no yes or no.
There's just fucking. Why don't you just try something and see if it sticks?
There's just keep the questions going. That's the whole field. But yeah, so
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess we could end this on like a would you rather.
Sure. Yeah. So classic.
Yeah, ever so classic. So yeah, would you rather have X-ray vision or magnified hearing? Since we're talking sci-fi. Ooh.
X-ray vision. Yeah.
I think magnified hearing, because X-ray vision is kind of like you can't really trust your eyes in a sense. I mean, your ears either, but at the same time, you could like sort of like.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I suppose magnified hearing is more of a human ability.
Yeah, well, it's like a bat.
Well, X-ray vision is completely going into the alien powers.
I mean, magnified hearing is very much like illogical. Like it makes sense. Whereas, how would
I suppose I would go with that just to. To not accidentally give someone cancer through my
radio waves,
ultraviolet rays.
Ultraviolet X-rays.
I don't want to give anyone cancer.
So would you be? Or if I can just make someone completely sterile by staring at his balls, something. Oh, that'd be fucking madness, man.
Yikes!
It's like, yo, hey, you want to start beef with me? You ain't gonna have no kids.
Oof.
Would you rather be too hot or too cold? What's a good one? Actually, I like this one.
In what sense? Like my skin,
in the sense of like if like you're in. Okay, so would you rather be in the Sahara Desert or like say in the Antarctica?
Sahara.
So you'd rather be hotter, too hot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Too hot, like it sticks to if everything sticks. You just
it's not comfortable, but.
Like the cold, you could be preserved, like Steve Rogers. Get him, Steve.
I mean, that works for Steve, but I don't want to freeze my limbs off. I don't want
Steve Rogers. You just took that. He got iced.
I mean, you might be lucky, and you'll get the Steve Rogers treatment. Meanwhile, some other people are gonna get the Snowpiercer treatment.
Yeah, cryo shield. Cryo shield.
Yeah.
Cryo freeze. Yeah, fucking hell, man. Ooh, would you rather explore space or the ocean?
Ooh,
because the ocean has been like a lot of it has not been like touched yet.
There's a lot of mysteries there. It's both are terrifying,
obviously.
So
and both you can't breathe. So
both. If you get stuck, there's no way back, basically. I guess purely on aesthetics, well, for personal preference, I guess I'll go with space.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I don't like water. Me and water don't mesh well. Like salt water makes my skin all fucked up and shit, and I can't be bothered with. Like honestly, like worst case scenario, you land on some planet. and you'll be the first. You'll be the first there. You won't be alive, but you'll be the first there.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Your ashes, your disintegrated ashes, will make it there.
Or you might be crumbling through Jupiter and be part of its freaking enormous gas-like planet. And you're like,
you'll become one of the rings of Saturn.
You're like, hey, like the remnants. Look at it. Look, you can see his bones just floating about. You know what's funny? Because like in space, there's like no air, so everything travels hella fast.
Yeah.
And so you're going through the rings of Saturn, and a bone just smacks the shit out of you in the face. It's like, how was he killed? Oh, yo, the dude's bones, man, just went through him like a bullet.
Your bones will straight up destroy a rocket.
Oh my god, that'd be crazy. It could actually brag to your friends now. So it's a little bit more morbid. Would you rather die before or after your spouse? Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh,
I'm selfish. I want to die early. Get the fuck out of here. I want to be part of the universe ASAP.
That's tough because it's a very I feel like
it's tough because your girlfriend's watching.
First is a bit selfish because I want to have company.
Sure.
I don't want to be the last one.
I don't want to be alone, mommy.
I don't want to be alone. But yeah, So I think I would prefer
before.
See,
this is why guys tend to die earlier than girls, because we choose to die ASAP before. We're so selfless. We'll take the bullet.
I mean, if I could choose to take the bullet, knowing that, and by taking the bullet, I mean living longer. If I could choose to live longer, knowing that my spouse does prefer to go first, then I suppose I'd do that. Yes, I'd live longer.
Oh, okay. Another question relating to that, and probably the last one. Would you rather win the lottery or live twice as long?
Live twice as long.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to live twice as long? That sounds like stress.
The lottery sounds crippling.
No, because the lottery would be like, say you have the lottery, you have now you have power, because essentially now money is kind of like the currency for power nowadays. But
right.
Like back then it was might, but anyways, now you have money, so you can essentially shape the world, if you will, the way you want it.
I suppose.
Whereas live twice as long, it's kind of like, I gotta struggle for twice as long.
But will your relationships with people be as meaningful?
I mean, you still your life. I mean, you just get money out of it. Like if you turn into an egomaniac because of it, then that's your fault. It's not really the money's fault. It's just like it's kind of like a tool. It's kind of like, you get a new shovel.
Yeah, but I can't. By winning the lottery, in this choice, I don't get to see what
advancements
2150 looks like.
It sounds like I don't think cable would wanna see what happens at 2150. It's like, no, do not live that long.
Oh no, stop before 2150. That's not a good one.
Thanos came in, fucking started playing started doing the fucking
one of those.
Would you imagine he snaps multiple times, just appears, disappears.
He's like a gang guy. He's just
to the beat. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, this has been the Speakeasy podcast. I am Daryl.
I'm Phil.
And if you guys enjoy more conspiracy theories, if you guys enjoy conspiracy theories, let us know what some of yours are.
Yeah, share some with us, and we'll give them a read, and we'll try and interact with you if you guys want to.
And also, I think also the next episode we should talk about how, hopefully Masara will be there, but basically how sort of these conspiracy theories could also be like realities that we don't know about yet, like actual something may have happened, and then we're just sort of like the result of it. Kind of like we're if, for example, the Big Bang wasn't a big crunch and it's just like an end there, what would that look like?
Right.
Very depressing. But anyways, at least there's no more reincarnation. We live life once, motherfucker.
At least as far as we know.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, Jason, edit this shit and see you guys next time.
Thank you, Jason.
Hey, by the way, I dig the intro of Jay, so we good. All right, see you.